Hi everyone, I'm Evren. I'm Evren Aksoy, one of the PDR consultants. And today I have a very interesting personality, a tremendous leader, an out-of-box businesswoman, and an expert about brands, about brand services, loyalty. So okay, I will cut it short because I'm sure Janelle will be doing the introduction better than me. So I'll introduce you, Janelle Barlow, for today as part of the PDR talks. And with Janelle, we will have a discussion, short discussion about what kind of things we are doing right now in Corona outbreak, and what she will be doing and what she foresees the short future. These kind of things we will be discussing. Janelle, welcome to the PDR talks. And by the way, I'm Evren, and for your information, with 25 years of professional career, especially in multinationals, I'm doing coaching and trainings and consultancy to help my clients to reach their potentials. And today, as part of the PDR talks, we are together with Janelle. Janelle, welcome, and I'll give you the word to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to hear a Turkish accent, I have to say. Well, so just a little bit about myself. I've written several books. As you mentioned, my expertise is in the area of service. I wrote a book called A Complaint is a Gift, which actually has been translated into Turkish.
Yeah.
And it's done quite well all over the world. And the whole notion is that we have to look at feedback as a gift. And I think governments are getting feedback today for how they're handling the virus. It's just, you can't satisfy an entire population of a country. So I did that. And then I wrote a book on branded customer service. So I've been working on linking those together. And now I am, because we have this little gift of time, since most of us around the world, I believe, are stuck in our homes most of the time. And I'm working on a book on branded sales. And I'm actually thinking now of linking that to how critical that is when you're in a crisis state, such as we're in right now. Since the book isn't finished, I can add some more to that. I also wrote a book on video conferencing, which we're all watching that here. And I do believe that video conferencing is finally here to stay. I actually wrote that book back at the time of 9/11, when the New York was bombed. And I thought for sure that people would stop flying on airplanes, but we didn't. We just complained about having to take our shoes off and walk through security. But we went right back to flying, and that has continued on. Now, of course, that's just not happening. I just saw where Los Angeles has had the greatest reduction or fewer planes leaving than ever in the history of the Los Angeles airport. And that's a significant statement in the whole history of the airport. So I think that people aren't going to do that. I mean, who wants to get on an airplane, wear a mask, and wonder if you're going to get sick? And also, all those pilots are going to have to be recertified. All of them. They haven't been flying enough, so they have to go back. All of that's going to take time to get the airline industry up again. I think it's going to suffer for a while, and I think that people are getting used to Zooming, to Skype, to all the other kinds of processes that are available for people. I think it's here to stay, and there's a lot of things that you can do. Now, when I wrote that book, I was not looking at the technology because that's not really an expertise of mine. What I was looking at is, how can you look better when you're on a Zoom call, or just a few things that I've done. You'll see I've got no light coming from behind me. It's all on the sides. It's I know, and I've got it cleared. You outside this little window right here, there's a mess in my office, but I
So
look pretty neat, don't I?
before doing this interview, I should be reading that book. Am I right?
Right. I don't think it's available on Kindle, but you know what? I'll make sure you get a copy of it. I actually think that some of the people in PDR may have a copy of it. It should go out on Kindle. It's a fun. Is really the mistakes that people make on
Yeah,
Zoom are pretty amazing. Especially, you know, they'll be dressed up here and then they have on pajamas underneath, and then they have to leave the room suddenly, and then they stand up and everybody can see how they're really dressed. I think that's a big mistake, because you don't know what kinds of things are going to happen in a Zoom conference. You really don't. It's a good
exactly.
idea to be dressed all the way down to your feet. That's a good idea. And I
Exactly.
know most people don't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I won't ask you how you're dressed.
Don't ask me. Don't ask me. Please don't ask me.
Yeah.
Janelle, I heard from a very good friend of mine that you are a very experienced expert, especially in service industry. And I heard that in one of the cruise companies, you have done some interesting jobs and some interesting stories you may have to
Yeah.
tell us. Because I'm very keen on listening those experiences and to learn from them
Right.
for a brand in service and for a customer service in service industry.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, the client that I'm most proud of is my relationship with the Viking Ocean Cruises. I mean, right now, you know, the cruise industry is just not moving right now. And it really is agonizing. It just bothers me that they're not out there able to cruise, but that's just where it is. So I met them when Viking Ocean Cruises had just started. Now they had already had the Viking River side, but this is the ocean cruising. These are those mid-sized boats. They hold about close to 900 people, and then they have their crew, which is another big chunk of people. So it's a medium-sized large boat. So it can go up rivers. It's that small, but at the same time, it's very safe in the ocean. And they invited me when they first started, and they said, you know, we want to know what our service position is. And I had worked with them in rivers, and they liked the way we approached it. And they said, and we would like to really define something that tells who we are. And so we worked with them and helped them figure out what they wanted to do to make because they work with travelers. That's how they put it. That's a very good brand position for the cruise industry. So they work for travelers, and they served travelers, and then they would bring in these people. And one of the things that they did, and I had nothing to do with this, was they did elaborate interviews with anybody who was going to get on their ships and work. I mean, I think they would interview them like 3 times, and they went all over the world to bring these people in. And then those people began to refer other people who were like-minded, because they knew what the industry wanted. And then we worked with their managers, and then we worked with their crew. And we did these 2-day programs that were really all about mindset. And this was tricky, because these were people from the Philippines, from the Middle East, Croatia, and so on, a few from Mexico, some now from China. And so they were from all over Indonesia. They were from all over the world. And we had to teach them how to deal with mostly Western guests. Mostly they're from Australia, the United States, and Canada, and England, but mostly from the United States. So we were able to show them, you know, how you've got to relate to those people and their cultures. The cultures are so different, but we focused so that it was not just looking at the customers, we were also looking at the entire ship. And those ships were really, everyone, they were a marvel to be on. The people they're so friendly. They were just so cooperative and so friendly, and they knew what they needed to do. And so we created an acronym for them so that they could then, this is what we're delivering, and it got reinforced hundreds of different ways. And so it's really sad to see now that, you know, they're having to stop production of their last ship. It's not out yet, and they've got a few more to go. I think eventually it will come back. I think they will be one of the cruise lines that survives. I'm not so sure that all of them are, but
unfortunately,
I think once they start sailing again, I think they'll be just fine. I would invite everybody to take one of their cruises. It's a marvelous experience. It is.
Please invite me.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Janelle, I would like to start with asking you some questions about Corona days. So, what are you doing in Corona outbreak? For your information, in Turkey, for example, as part of the PDR group, we have a very quick, I can call it agile return to online business. Okay, Janelle, thanks for introducing yourself. It is quite interesting personality in front of me. So I would like just to ask you, how are you doing in this coronavirus pandemic time? And first of all, how is US doing in these times? And then maybe yourself, how are you doing in these difficult times? We are calling these difficult times. Are you?
Oh yes, without question. Today the the new unemployment figures came out, and there's now, I believe it's 23 million people since the start of this in the United States who have lost their jobs. That's quite a large number, 23 million. That's getting down to where the Depression days were. You know, it's very hard to say what is going on in the United States because of the size of the country and because of the large number of large cities spread all over from one coast to the other. So you've got California, which is just doing a magnificent job of controlling the virus. And yet it's, you know, it's so huge. It's 40 million people in California. And it's what, the fifth largest world's economy, if it were it's a nation itself. So there's that huge. And then all the way up the West Coast into Seattle, which is where Microsoft is, and Boeing and Amazon. Those places, that place was hit very, very hard to begin with. And then on the East Coast, you've got the Tri-Cities in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and so on. And those have been very badly hit. And then you've got a few other pockets. So, you know, it's very, very hard. You've got big sections of the United States that are pretty much untouched, pretty much. But then we have Native American populations living in those sections. And some people think that some of those tribes are just going to be wiped out because they don't have adequate medical care. A lot of them are living in great poverty. So it's very, very hard to say what's happening. The state where I live is doing pretty well. They've done a lot of aggressive testing. And so we know where things are. And then it depends on the section of the city. I'm sure Istanbul is the same way.
It is exactly. Yeah. It is the same way. And how are you doing then personally? What about you, and how are you doing in these days personally? And what about your business? The second after your answer.
Well, I'm doing fine. My husband and I get up every morning and hike 4 miles in the foothills of the mountains that are around this area. And that's just wonderful. We really do think it's the best part of the day. And there are people out there, but we wear little masks that we put on when we get by people. So we feel very, very safe in this neighborhood. It's also not real densely populated. We're living in houses with yards around them instead of, you know, apartment buildings. You know, the world is just so different. Every different part is, but we fortunately, I think, are very, very blessed with the circumstances that we have in which we're living.
So the social distance is natural with you in your neighborhood.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. You know, we walk down the street and wave at people if we are out taking a walk, and they stand distances apart and talk to each other. So yeah, it's not bad. It's really not bad for me personally. I know
Uh-huh.
a lot of people are suffering.
So,
Just
Jana, the second question was about business. For example, when I think about our business, the training business or the consultancy business of PDR group. So I was not expecting that. Actually, we have adopted so quickly, and we turned all of our businesses to online. So
mhm.
we are doing the online trainings, we are doing the online coaching. Everything is on Zoom or on Teams or GoToMeeting, whatever resource is required. So what about you? How are you doing? Have you had that chance to turn everything to online so quickly, or how are you?
Well, I think so. The whole business of speaking and coaching and training, I mean, you know, business just got turned off overnight. So it's just not there. So you either, uh, you can't do it in person. You just can't. So you have to do it online. And I think everybody has turned. You know, I was thinking right before we started this conversation about how, you know, for the future, what's going to happen. And I think that there's a convergence of businesses, and then there's the technology. And where those two come together, the businesses that exist today are going to suffer. So let's take, for example, retail. I mean, really, there's no reason why we can't buy everything online. There's really no reason. So the technology is pushing in that direction, and a lot of people in the United States are saying the great big retail stores that go across the nation, like Macy's, you may have heard of Macy's, and Neiman Marcus and Kohl's, and a number. They're probably toast. You know, they're probably not going to make it because the technology is there to step in. And I think in our business, anybody who tries to just do in-person training, there's going to be very little of that because the technology is there to take the place. And I think in all the businesses where the technology can take the place, that's probably going to happen.
Uh, Jana, so this is an interesting topic actually. Some people are telling that even after coronavirus, everything settled down, the online hype will be going on.
Yes.
So everything will continue online. And some people are saying, no, 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 that's not the way. So face to face is always the king, and face to face will come back, strike back. So, what is your opinion?
You know, it's a hard one. I look at commercials on televisions and I see they always, you know, they're showing people having fun, rolling in the grass, talking to each other, hugging each other, all of that, you
Yeah.
know, and we're all missing that, except in the people that we live with. And yes, that will always be there, but I don't think that it has to be done by business. I don't think it does. I think it can be done. We can handle it in our personal life. And I don't think these viruses are going to go away, because now the suggestion is that it's climate change that's doing this. It's putting animals together in places that they've never been together. And viruses are moving from one species to another species. And then there you get a pandemic. And so I think it's going to be the wave of the future. We're going to have to adjust to this. It's, you know, another 10, 20 years, it's going to be very, very different than it is today. And wherever the technology will take care of us, I really honestly believe that most residential colleges and universities are hardly going to exist. Hardly. I really don't think. Obviously, you got to have medicine, but even telemedicine, look what they do. I know, you know, like one doctor in thousands of miles away will be looking at a screen and pushing a robot, and they're doing heart surgery and brain surgery. And, you know, a lot of these things don't have to be done in person. And I think with what we're doing to the environment and this virus jumping from species to species, we are going through maybe the biggest transformative change that the world and its population have ever seen. And I think it's great that you in Turkey just immediately switched over to telemark or to video. That's what we're doing. We're doing online. I'm right now in the process of making up some 5-minute videos for YouTube. And then we're transforming all of our courses to, online courses. Some of those courses are quite good. I think we're going to get better. And I think in 5 years from now, we won't even recognize what online courses. Maybe we'll have holograms, so that, because you look two-dimensional to me, but there's really no reason why we can't change this so that we look three-dimensional. There's no reason for it. The only thing we won't have is taste and and touch, but we certainly got visual. Maybe in the future, human eyes will get gigantic because that's how we'll be interacting with each other.
So everyone is telling that visual part and the audio part is completed, but this kinesthetic part of learning is always missing in the online part. So recently I've read some article about the mega trends over 10 years. And it was a Bank of America research, I think, Bank of America Merrill Lynch research. And it was saying that peak globalization is the mega trend. So return to localization is the mega trend. So we will not globalize anymore. We will return to localization. So,
but why? I wonder why they say that.
I don't know.
Because look, you're in Turkey. I'm in the United States.
Exactly. So that will be my question, actually. From this perspective, I would like to ask you your opinion. How about the booming sectors in next 10 years or something like that? Let's say 5 years, okay? 10 years is too long in this environment. So let's say 5 years. What would be the booming sectors, and what would be the declining sectors according to you from today onwards?
Well, I think we have to look at in person. A lot of what's in person today is going to go away. I heard somebody say, well, in sales, for example, if you're doing a really big sale, you want to fly somebody to meet with that head of the company and be there in person with them. I even wonder about that. I mean, I think our ability to move quickly, look what you've done in your business in Istanbul. Our ability to move quickly is going to take place. I did I had a Zoom call with the course that I teach for an online program. They've been online forever, so they're quite comfortable with this. But it's called the Holmes Institute, and we were having a discussion about creativity exercises. And one of the exercises that I teach is, it's called holographic thinking. And, a hologram, you can see any part of the hologram in any other part. That's how the hologram works. So I use that as a metaphor and say, with creativity, why don't you take anything, pick it up, look at it, and just say what it says to you about what creative project you're working on. So I was going through an example with somebody, and I was picking up objects on my desk, and so this is the kinesthetic part. I think it can be there. So I said, here's a necklace that I have on my desk.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I said, okay, so I'm looking at this, and it's up in front of the screen. I said, so tell me, what does this tell you about your project? She was looking at what kind of a website to make. So what does it tell you about your project? So she and a whole bunch of people were just brainstorming. Well, it should be varied. It should be attractive. It should have some element of humanity in it. It should, but here's the kinesthetic part. So why couldn't we do this? And I say, okay, everyone, you tell me, what does this pen tell me? Now pick up a pen, Evron, and you pick up a pen. I've got a pen. We've got kinesthesia going on.
Exactly.
So I think it's just a question of we're going to find more and more things it's not just going to be visual. Certainly it will be audio as well, but different kinds of audio will sneak in these things. And then we'll do things like this. Oh, what does this feel like to you? What does it feel like to me? And we'll exchange our kinesthesia through words and vision rather than just through the hands.
I got it. I got it.
I think, you know, I think we are just on a curve up to where we're going to be. In 5 years' time, we may not recognize at all. Now, what industries will this affect? I think the cruising industry may go. I mean, I don't know how the cruising industry is going. How do you get somebody on a ship? Well, you can get them on a ship and test to see that they're healthy. But then if you stop in a port and you go out into the community, you got to have some pretty sophisticated testing to find out whether or not that person caught anything while they were out there in the community. So there's some industries that are going to have a harder time. Maybe we'll just get more creative with our clothing. I was thinking about, I am president of the local National Speakers Association for this next year, and I've always been hosting a holiday party. And I was thinking, we won't be able to have that because people won't want to get together in person. But then I was thinking, you know what? They could come in the door. I could give them a mask, do something special with the mask. I could give them, you know, the whole gown, shoes, paper shoes to cover their feet or something like that. You know, we could do it. It could be done. It wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same as a regular party, but it would be, we could be together.
Exactly. You could be together, but I don't think that it will never be the same.
Yeah. It's really, we've got to adjust as humans. We are entering a new sphere of life.
Exactly. What about the airlines?
Well, the airlines, that's a problem, isn't it? But I mean, I personally, they're big polluters. And if we get serious about climate change, we may find, and then see what can replace, this is always going to be the question, how can technology replace what those things do? Well, here we are. You're in Turkey, I'm here. We don't need to fly to meet each other.
Exactly.
We can,
molecular transportation will be the final solution, I think.
That's right. And we can travel. If we need to travel some distance, we'll just take more time doing it. You know, people used to travel by sea, and they just, of course, they died on some of those ships because they were infected with things. But maybe in this regard, we will stay a little further apart from each other.
Yeah.
Maybe that will happen. You know, we won't get to make hundreds of trips across the ocean.
Exactly.
Maybe that would happen. That'd be a shame. I would miss not seeing Turkey again, but.
No. I don't think that that way. So a little bit optimistic. I'm looking forward, and everything will be going all right. That's what I see, and I see that pharmaceutical industry is so strong, and something will come up, and everything will be settled down. That's my optimism, and leave me with my optimism, please. Okay.
Well, I personally think that's maybe a bit optimistic, but because there's always side effects from those drugs that we take. There's always side effects from that medication.
That's what I said. So please leave me with my optimism.
Yes, okay. I know lots of people want to believe that we can solve the climate change by just some technology, but I think we need to go. Maybe what's happening is we're saying, let's go back to more simple times. You know, do we really need all the things that we have? Do we really need, my gosh, Apple and Microsoft have done such a great job giving us, and Dell, all these, you know, here we are. We're just doing marvelous things with our computers. And you and I will talk, and then you will share this with a lot of people, and people will get excited, and it's quite amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. It is indeed. So, Janelle, thanks very much for your time. That was wonderful for me, a good experience for me, and I hope that everyone watching this video will be very useful for them. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for your patience. So have healthy days, and I am looking forward to make this interview again in near future. Okay.
Good. I'll
In
have
better
different
days.
thoughts, I'm sure. I'm sure I'll have different thoughts. And this is my new handshake.
That's
it.
good. That's good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.